Lots of people joining. Welcome, everyone. I'm seeing jazz, pop, Brazilian music. So fun. Well, we have a very jazzy webinar for you here tonight. And please keep putting your answers in the chat, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Quickly, before we dive into the content of this webinar, I'd love to share a little bit about who we are. GBH is Boston's public media or PBS station, and we produce a ton of content for PBS and PBS Kids. Here you'll see just a few of the shows that we produce for adult programming, things like American Experience, Masterpiece, Nova. For the kids side of things, Arthur, Molly of Denali, Work It Out Wombats, Pinkalicious, and of course, Acoustic Rooster, which you'll hear about tonight. And we also co-founded and we co-manage PBS Learning Media, which is our free educational platform where you find a ton of wonderful resources available for the classroom. So that's a little bit about who we are, but I'd love to share more about who is with us tonight on the webinar. We have a wonderful set of speakers tonight. The first is Nicole Velez. She has spent the last 15 years working in children's media and is currently serving as a senior producer in our children's programming division. She was once an aspiring teacher, but she has now devoted her career to inspiring young minds and creating educational and entertaining content for children. She currently manages the development and production needs for the series Acoustic Rooster and has worked on other series such as Arthur, Pinkalicious and Peterific, Molly of Denali, Between the Lines, and Curious George. Also with us is Julius Harper. He is an Emmy-nominated writer, executive producer, and games and entertainment industry veteran. Most recently, he served as the executive producer on Acoustic Rooster. He is a Disney alum and former Netflix executive who's brought serious creative firepower to franchises like Jurassic Park, Marvel, Star Wars, Phineas and Ferb, Hot Wheels, Black Mirror, and more, just to name a few. With 15 plus years of experience crafting multimedia content for major platforms and studios like Nickelodeon, DreamWorks, and PBS, he makes big ideas sing on screen of any size. So welcome to you both, and I will turn it over to you to take it from here.
Well, hello, everybody. Can you guys see me? There we go. I'm Julius Harper, executive producer for Acoustic Rooster, and I just wanted to say thanks, everyone, for coming on board and taking the time out of your evening to join us all. I'm going to be walking you through a little bit of our special little project called Acoustic Rooster. So Acoustic Rooster is based on a book by an Emmy and Newbery Award-winning writer, Kwame Alexander. It is about a jazz-playing rooster and his band of animal friends who have musical adventures together at the Bebop Barnyard. The show in the book is targeted to kids age 3 to 5, but we also found that it has an appeal to a wider range of kids, really from ages 2 to 8, as well as some parents too. And as a super special treat, we're very excited today to have Kwame Alexander himself, the heart and soul of Acoustic Rooster, here today on board as well. So I will toss it over to Kwame to say a few magical words.
What's happening? What's happening? Thanks, Julius. Appreciate you. Julius, I had no idea you worked on Black Mirror. Really?
Yeah, man, I touched that project a couple years ago, a small part, but I was there.
Look, y'all, I thought I was the coolest person on this webinar, but apparently I'm not. It's all Julius Harper, our executive producer. It's so good to be here. I can't see any of y'all because this is a webinar, but you know what I can do? I can shout y'all out, and I'm literally going to do that right now. Here we go. What's up, Cherry Tolls and Amy Lutz and April Borsak, Melissa Glass, Shauna Martin, Maria Ortiz Andrade, David D'Elia, Carrie, Mary Curtin, Claire. Like, it's important to show the love to all the librarians and the teachers, all the folks who like make it possible for me to do the job that I do. And the job that I do is trying to change the world one word at a time. So let me tell you how Rooster started, because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do right now, right, Julius? Okay, cool. All right. So back in like 2009 or 10, I thought I was like the coolest poet ever, Angelica Reed. And so there was this fellowship in Bahia, Brazil. Y'all heard of that, right? The fellowship was you get to write for 3 months in Brazil on the beach in a villa with a chef and 9 other writers. And so I wrote a really banging application, and I had a recommendation from Maya Angelou, and I didn't get it. And so I was really distraught. So I went to bed that night and I cried a little bit, Monique, and I was real sad. And I woke up the next morning and I said, you know what, Kwame? Start your own fellowship. Who does that? I do. I started a fellowship. I called it the Kwame Alexander International Fellowship. I found 8 writer educator friends from around the country, and I sent them all letters and said, you are a recipient of a Kwame Alexander International Fellowship to Tuscany. You know why I said Tuscany and Patillo? Because I had a friend who lived there and she found a villa for me. She went and checked it out and she put a deposit down for me, and I told her I'd pay her back. For 3 weeks, I was going to take 9 writers to Tuscany. I spent about 6 months raising the money by going to schools. Like I went to schools for like $100 a day. I went to a lot of schools. I saved all my money, and it happened in the summer of 2010. And we were all there for 3 weeks. And the first week, I didn't do any writing, but I drank a lot of grape juice. And I swam in the pool and I listened to jazz and I read. The second week, I did no writing. The third week, I was like, this is almost up. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. So I was walking on this gravel road up to this cafe to get some, like maybe a Fanta and a croissant. And I passed this coop. And on the coop were these chickens. And they were running around. And I felt like they were dancing. Like they looked like they were like running around in rhythm. And I was like, ooh, maybe they're dancing. If they're dancing, they're at a party. Well, if they're at a party, there's got to be music. If there's music on a farm in a coop, then it's got to be live music. If there's live music, it's gonna be jazz. Oh, well, if there's jazz music on the farm, who's playing the music? Acoustic Rooster and Duck Ellington and Mules Davis and Thelonious Monkey and Ella Fitzgerald. And I went back to the villa and I wrote this children's book. And this was 2010. And the reason jazz was on my mind is because I had a daughter and she was like 1 year old. And the only way I could get her to stop crying was by playing Ella Fitzgerald, Nicole, and playing Frank Sinatra, Mary, and playing John Coltrane, Alexandra. And so all these two worlds sort of collided. And I wrote this children's book. And within 1 year, I had a book deal with a company called Sleeping Bear Press in Michigan. And that was, wow, that was 14 years ago, guys. What a journey. That's how it started. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm so glad we're here. And I guess we're going to turn it over to Julius and Nicole to keep us going because we got some real cool information for y'all.
Thanks so much, Kwame, and always a tough act to follow the amazing Kwame. But I'm really excited to share a little bit more specifically about where we've taken Kwame's amazing property and what we've been able to do as a team together. So, with this project, we had obviously as inspiration Kwame's amazing book, and what we ended up turning that into, Nikki, next slide, was a full suite of content. And so the amazing content that we did in collaboration with, of course, PBS, it was to create a television special, a 44-minute special that was kind of the origin story of where Rooster first met his bandmates, who we'll introduce you to in a little bit. We also created 20 shorts, each about 3 minutes long. And each of them had an original song. So the special itself had multiple songs. The shorts obviously each had a song because jazz music is at the heart and soul of this show, and obviously an important piece of the content that we were creating. And we cover everything from musical concepts to how music can impact our feelings, how kids can make their own music. We also leaned into the digital space and created an original digital game called Groovin' with Acoustic Rooster. So kids have the opportunity to actually play in the band with Rooster and his the Barnyard Greats. And then, of course, Since books is where this all started, we also created 2 new board books along with Kwame and, of course, Sleeping Bear Press that utilize actually now the visuals from the series itself. Because obviously we took a new direction, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of the creative design process that we had when it came to creating our characters, creating the backgrounds in the world. But having these books launch around the same time as the series back in May was a really great way of kind of really bringing to life this amazing new world. And to give you a sneak peek of our world, we actually have a clip from our 44-minute special. This is how the special starts. We start with a song, because what better way to set up jazz than with jazz itself? So take it away, Nikki.
Ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-da. I love jazz. There's music in the air, and I can feel it. I'm on my way. It's always jazz that I will play. I've got the skills so I can thrill on this guitar. I'm on my way and I will play that jazz music. And I say this rooster knows my musical crow's gonna take me far. Nodding swing, bossa nova. I'm the rooster that'll show ya. Jazz is what I love, and it's my time. I'm going to the tip top, that barnyard where they bebop, and I'll join that band to really make me shine. Gym and jazz contest at Birdland? Oh yeah! Huh? It's them! The Barnyard Band! The coolest jazz band there ever was! There's no band better in the whole wide world! I'm gonna join that jazz band! I'm on my way, a shining star, and I am ready to go far. The band will say, you've made our day, and welcome me. I am the best, and I'll impress. With jazz music, I confess, this rooster knows my musical crow's gonna take me far. Darling swing, bossa nova, I'm the rooster that'll show ya. Jazz is what I love, and it's my time. I'm going to the tip top, that barnyard where they bebop, and I'll join that band to really make me shine. I'm on my way. He's on his way. I'm on my way. He's on his way. Jazz I will play. Jazzy will play. I'm on my way. He's on his way. I'm on my
So spoiler alert, Rooster does make it to the Bebop Barnyard, and he does make it into the band. We have much more music and clips to share with you all, but that is one of my favorite songs still, and I hope you all were bopping along to that amazing tune. Speaking of the music, which actually brings us into the curriculum, we had an amazing composer work with us named Mark McLean. And, having experts all along the way was so important to this project. So we made sure that we had a lot of amazing advisors supporting us. So along with Mark McLean being the jazz artist that he was, we also had additional support from the Vice President of Education of Curriculum Development at the Herbie Hancock Institute, Dr. J.B. Dias. We had also an educator, R.J. Root, who's at the LA Public Schools, and he provided a really great perspective on how to really age appropriately talk about some of these concepts. And then we also worked with Joanne Seelig Lamparter, who is the Chief Artistic Programming Officer at Imagination Stage. And she's an advisor we've worked with in the past, actually, on Pinkalicious and Peterific. So, with the support of all of these amazing people, we really looked at how to bring the performing arts and the core music learning framework into the world of the Bebop Barnyard. And our approach was really trying to look at, the National Core Art Standards and help kids, deepen their understanding of musical concepts, everything from following the beat to call and respond, improvisation, which are the 3 actually main subjects that come across in our 1-hour special. It also, though, all the content that we created really helps talk to kids about how to express themselves and connect with others through music. And also develop an appreciation through music, through everyday relatable experiences. And to really get a better understanding of how well we could get this across, we of course needed to ask not only the experts, but kids and families themselves. So I'm going to turn it over to Julius to talk about some of the testing that we did early on in the project.
Thanks, Nicole. So early on in production, we shared a rough draft of the Acoustic Rooster special with some kids to get a sense of, how would they respond to the content. The event was attended by about 22 kids, ages ranging 3 to 10. Attendees and their families came from a diverse range of backgrounds. And after the screening, we conducted an informal Q&A to see, what the kids and their parents thought. And the things that both, children and families resonated with was obviously the jazz music, first and foremost. Many kids and parents were tapping their feet all along. We could see as we were watching on the Zoom. And afterwards, families said that the music was actually their favorite part of the production. We also got props for the story, multiple references to how original the Acoustic Rooster special story is. So if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. It's a banger. And really also looking at, the look of the show, how fun and unique it was. Another area that we heard a lot of great feedback on was the characters and their personality. Both boys and girls resonated with our lead characters, most notably Rooster and Lil. And then the voices as well, we got props that they really felt authentic, relatable, and engaging. Authenticity was really a big point for us. We wanted to make sure that we were properly representing the culture and the history and the story of jazz, and we got really big props for that as well. Next up, I'll talk a little bit about cast and character inspirations. So here's a sampling of our amazing cast. Acoustic Rooster included Dee Daniels, who plays Ella Fitzgerald. Again, speaking to that point of authenticity, one thing that we really loved about working with Dee is that she is actually a real life jazz singer. So she was able to bring that kind of performance attitude and obviously, singing chops to the role, which was very important and special and key for the show. And then we also had Dom, who plays Rooster, who was just an amazing natural talent, just a really fun, confident, cute kid who also just has a really sweet kind of vulnerability about him. And this was his first major show. So it was really a pleasure to be able to work with him. And, we're going to be keeping an eye on his career as things move forward because, the kid's a natural. We also had Doran that we worked with, who played our lovable but grumpy mule's uncle. Great character, again, amazing comedic chops, really knows how to toe that line to be kind of like that lovable, grumpy character, and also just really funny and grounded, which we loved. Duck was played by Viv Leacock, just an overall really funny guy. Again, great comedic timing, really good comic relief. And a joy to work with, brought our little Duck character, the piano playing Duck Ellington, to life. And then Lil, played by Elena Benares, again, an amazing voice and just such a great balance of empathy and edge with her character. Like, she's Rooster's best friend, but she's also not afraid to be like, Rooster, you shouldn't be doing that. And like, just in the sweet way, kind of read him the riot act when he needs to hear it. It was really, really a great privilege to work with her as well. We also got to partner with some real life jazz legends from the jazz world as well. Most notably, Amy Shook, who is a real life jazz bassist, super, super talented and amazing. And we got to work with Herbie Hancock, who is a jazz legend of jazz legends. He actually got to play one of the character roles in one of our shorts as well. And it was a real privilege to be able to connect with him, really giving a sense of continuity and history to the project that we were working on. So next up, I will toss over to Kwame, who will talk a little bit about some of our character inspiration.
So what we don't have up here is Acoustic Rooster and who he's based on. A lot of folks don't really know. I think I talk about it in the back of the book. But let's see in the chat if anybody knows what musician was Acoustic Rooster inspired by or based by. Any takers? Let's see here. You're right, Nicole. Oh my gosh. Ann Patillo got it. Wes Montgomery. How did you know? What? That was so quick. I wasn't expecting that. So Wes Montgomery, I saw him perform in a yellow suit. And I was like, whoa, it was like on the not Johnny Carson, but like the Ed Sullivan show or something. I'm not that old, people. I saw it on YouTube. You can Google it. Um, and then there was another musician who was sort of a rock musician and jazz, Jaco Pastorius. So Rooster was based on those two characters. And then Miles Davis, of course, everybody knows. Go ahead, put it in the chat. Y'all know. I don't need to say it. And then thank you, Mary. Thank you, Michelle. All right, and then Duck Ellington, of course, the greatest composer of American music ever. Excellent, Skylar. A plus, Amanda. Yes, yes. And then Ella Fitzgerald. Yes. Who was that? Who was like famous for scatting. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Melissa. And then of course, ooh, Lil Hurden. Oh my goodness. No, nobody's gonna know this. If somebody gets this, I will give 1 million. Y'all heard that, right? Who knows who Lil Hurden was based on? Yeah, I don't think anybody knows it. It's a tough one. I will give you a hint. If I remember correctly, Lil Hurden was based on a female musician who was married to Louis Armstrong. Oh my goodness. Sherry, April, who are you? So what's up? I just got to know, first of all, what is in the water in Vegas? Why are there so many Vegas people on this call? That's number two. And number three, wowzers. Wowzers. I got to come to Vegas and I got to see y'all. This is amazing. Lillian Armstrong. I love it. I love it. Vegas loves GBH and we love you too. How's that, Nicole? Did I kill it?
Killed it as always. Amazing stuff. And I love the tutorial that we got in there. So obviously the character is a huge important piece of our show, but another really important piece that we want to talk about is the design of the world itself. So, when thinking about what this world would look like, we really obviously were thinking about musical inspiration. And so if you take a look at some of these background designs, you can really find and point out some of those musical elements. So you see the, piano-shaped pond. You see that various plants and trees around the area. Some are shaped as instruments. The bandstand itself is shaped like a set of drums. And so we really looked for these unique ways. And, we worked really hard with our amazing animation studio, Global Mechanic, to kind of come up with ways to really infuse music, not only audibly, but visually into this world. And this was really fun to do, not only in the static images taking place behind the characters, but also as the world expanded and grew when the music started. And so, when the music plays, and you saw a little bit of that in the clip from I'm on My Way, but you see it a lot in every bit of the episode, where when we get into a really high musical moment, you go into a musical world. One of them is right behind me, actually. And so having this abstract space, which is really, reminiscent of those jazz album covers that looks at shapes and sounds, and those shapes move. The barnyard itself actually moves, which you may have noticed in that I'm on My Way segment, where you see the barn actually bouncing to the music, because for all of you music teachers out there, or just anyone with kids at home, know that like your world is shaking and moving and vibing whenever, music is heard, especially jazz music. And so we wanted that visuals, those visuals to really uphold that. But don't just take my word for it. Let's take a look at a clip, actually, one of our shorts. So we had our Jazzy Jam shorts, and this was the first one that was released. And it might be a familiar tune to many of you, but we just put our little jazzy twist on it and enjoy some of those visuals that I just talked about.
Acoustic Rooster, Jazzy Jams. Rooster's Old MacDonald song. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. But this is the Bebop Barnyard. We should sing a jazz song about our farm. I know a jazzy rooster who can sing all about her band. Yay! E-I-E-I-O, let's go! The Bebop Barnyard had a band, E-I-E-I-O. And in the band there was a mule who loved to play his horn.
With a here and a there, here up.
The Bebop Barnyard had a band, E-I-E-I-O. The Bebop Barnyard had a band, E-I-E-I-O. And in that band there was a sheep, and her name was Lou. With a ba-ba here and a there, here a ba, there a drum everywhere. The Bebop Barnyard had a band, E-I-E-I-O. The Bebop Barnyard had a band, E-I-E-I-O. And in that band there was a duck who loves to play piano.
With a here and a there. Woo!
E-I-E-I-O. Bebop Barnyard had a band, E-I-E-I-O. And in that band a bird did sing, Ella was her name.
With a chirp chirp here and a dee-dot there. Here a scout scuba down everywhere, right to that.
The Bebop Barnyard had a band, E-I-E-I-O. The Bebop Barnyard had a band, E-I-E-I-O. And with the guitar this rooster came, E-I-E-I-O. With the duck over here and the Ella there, here a mule's, there a Lil, and Chippy and Dewey, Dee will thrill. This is us, the Barnyard Band, E-I-E-I-O. Let's sing it again.
Thanks, Nikki. Yes, second line. It's so funny that you mentioned that. This song was actually the song that got Mark McLean on board on the project. We actually, as a way of kind of interviewing our musicians for the role of composer for the series, we asked them all to do their own jazzy take on Old MacDonald as a way to just level the playing field. And this came back almost to a T of what you heard here. He absolutely knocked it out of the park, and it was actually the second line, that drum sequence where we just felt the heart and soul of New Orleans, which, when you think about the heart and the soul of where jazz originated from, it just felt so authentic and so original and so accessible for kids because, that was our challenge, right, coming into this, of how do you make jazz accessible for kids? And going into this next section, how do you bring it into the classroom? And we have a whole lot of ideas to hopefully get some of that thinking started. And we're sure you'll have other ideas to kind of take from there. But one area that you can kind of think of, Nikki, if you want to go to the next slide, is fun and learning. So, aside from more of the core music concepts, which we'll get to in a second, we're looking at ways to really make our content very relatable to the regular experiences that kids, preschoolers, young elementary school kids are experiencing every day. So whether you're a parent, you're a teacher, you're a librarian, no matter where you are in the involvement you have with kids, there's those everyday needs that kids have. So whether it's getting your kid out of bed in the morning, some morning motivation, well, we have a Rooster's Wake Up song, or maybe you need help with bedtime itself, which for those of us on the East Coast, my husband's currently doing that for both my two young kids right now on his own. So, maybe he can put on that Rooster's bedtime song for support if he's struggling. And then also just your typical get up and move. We have some amazing tunes, one of which I'll give you a sneak peek of in a second, of Rooster's dancing song. But we have a song about how to jump rope. We have how to warm up your voice, how to warm up your body, something that's so important. But as I said, Rooster's dancing song is probably one of my favorite songs that we did in these shorts. So we have one more short to share with you. This is the Barnyard Bop, and I fully expect you all to memorize the moves and be teaching it to your kids in your life in the days after this webinar. But take a look.
Acoustic Rooster, jazzy jams. Rooster's dancing song.
Clap your hands and wiggle your beaks. Circle your hips and march your feet. Shove out that tweet tweet.
Those tweets sound sweet, Miss Ella. Is that what I think it is? It sounds like the Barnyard Bob dance.
Sure is, sugar.
Yeah, that's our favorite song. We should remember all the dance moves. We don't even need the song. What's this? Mita. Clap, clap. Wiggle, wiggle. Circle. March, march. Uh-huh. Pop, pop.
Whoa, nice moves, chickadees.
Well, I hope those moves help me remember how the song goes. Those lyrics are tricky.
I'm sure they will. Just follow my lead. Welcome to the Barnyard Bob. Write your words and moves and get into the groove. When the beat gets going, it's the place to be. Now listen close and do what I sing. Clap your hands and wiggle your beaks. Circle your hips and march your feet. Spin around and touch the floor. Stand back up, here once more. It's Barnyard Bob.
Bop, bop.
We're gonna hop non-stop.
Hop, hop.
It's these few steps I'll take you through. Now everybody give me a woo-hoo!
Woo-hoo! You lost your voice. Oh, feathers. Wait! The chickadees can do the dance moves, and it'll help me remember the lyrics. Yes, yes, yes! First, you gotta clap your hands and wiggle your beaks. Circle your hips and march your feet. Spin around and touch the floor. Stand back up, do it once more. Step on your butt. Bop, bop. Hop, don't stop. Hop, hop. Clap your hands and wiggle your beaks. Circle your hips and march your feet. Spin around and touch the floor. Stand back up and do it once more. It's the Barnyard Bop. Bop, bop. We're gonna hop non-stop. Hop, hop. It's the Barnyard Bop. Bop, bop. We're gonna hop non-stop. Hop, hop. Woo! Hard work.
Too bad it's a webinar today and not a Zoom call, because otherwise I'd be getting you all up in your on your feet and we'd be dancing the Barnyard Bop together. But a really fun song. But to kind of cover just a few more ways that we think that Acoustic Rooster can be really utilized nicely in the classroom, in after-school programs, and libraries. Is really leaning into the music curriculum. So whether you're doing Music Mondays or you come up with your own kind of funny take on this, we have a lot of different categories that our shorts especially fit really nicely into. So whether it's kind of DIY, making your own music, we have a bunch of songs and story in short little shorts that really lean into this, whether it's talking about how to make music without your voices through a cappella, or just how anything can make a noise, from a bottle cap to a box to a tin can. Also exploring instruments. We explore the big bass, the bass in the big bass song with our guest Amy Shook. We learn a little bit about what the marimba is. We also have the windy instrument song, which explains that no, wind does not get wind instruments to play, but actually how they are played is what kind of gives it their name, and we explain that to kids. And then really get a little bit into jazz genres, which of course you hear different types of styles within the shorts themselves, but we really dive into the blues in our Feeling Blues song, as well as ragtime in the Rooster's Ragtime song. So a lot of really fun ways, and I know Nikki will share afterwards. I think the slides will be available, so no need to quickly jot down all of this. And I will also add that all of these shorts are available to watch on the PBS Kids video app. So they're all out there. I think most of them, if not all, are on YouTube as well. So lots of places to find these and play and enjoy them. In terms of other resources available, doesn't end with the actual videos themselves. We have a lot of amazing other content. And so, to enhance your next story hour, we actually have this Anywhere Jazz with Acoustic Rooster. It's a digital story hour kit for librarians and early childhood educators available. And this was developed with an advisory board group, including early education early childhood education, a public librarian, and a Berklee College of Music professor, and they all talked about the intersection of music and jazz and children's literature. And this kit features a list of, fun and engaging read aloud books that touch upon music content. It also has a barnyard theater activity with a barnyard backdrop and character pieces and props. There's also some character stick puppets and, of course, a coloring sheet because we always need to find a way to find a time for coloring with kids, as well as some Acoustic Rooster bookmarks. And so the toolkit is available for free download. And we'll provide this link as a part of the resource sheet that will just be distributed after the webinar. And Nikki, thank you, has been putting some of those links right in the chat for everyone. Enough from me. I think it's time for us to go back to Kwame. And I know ahead of this webinar, we got to hear from many of you with some questions. And then, of course, we'll open it up to everyone. But in taking a look, Kwame, at a whole bunch of questions that came in, there's a lot of questions in here about how to bring in poetry, wordplay for kids of all ages, even as young as babies and toddlers. So curious to hear from you. Obviously, the inspiration came from, your baby and the music itself, but any recommendations for the folks here about how to incorporate poetry, music, wordplay for those youngest of young viewers?
Ooh,
Good
that's a
question,
good
right?
question. Um, when I was 3 years old, my mother read to me my favorite book, Fox and Socks by Dr. Seuss. So I was like age for this for the rooster audience. And I would run around my house screaming out like I had memorized the book. Fox, socks, Knox, box. Fox in socks, socks in box. And so one day at my preschool, I had built a castle out of wooden blocks to show my mom when she came to pick me up from school. I figured she would be proud of me. Unfortunately, this other 3-year-old kid kicked over my blocks, and I went up to him with the only weapons I had, and I screamed like I was Dr. Seuss or Dr. Kwame. I said, "Those were my blocks that you flipped. Lest you want a quick payback, better fix my quick block stack." And he started crying. And when my mother came to school, all the teachers were like, "Mrs. Alexander, we have a problem. Your son Kwame is arrogant. He intimidates all the other kids with his words." And my mother said, "Thank you. We teach him to use his words." The best way to incorporate poetry and rhythm and rhyme is through books. It's through literature. Like show the words on the page and then let them listen to the music. Like those music connections are, they will make them because they'll hear that rhythm because you'll be sharing these books, you know, with the rhythm. And so I say use the books. Let the books do the work. That's why, as children's book authors, that's why we write and illustrate these books. It's so they can be supplemental. They can help you all do this work. That's how I learned how to love, how to read, how to write. It's through poetry. It's through Dr. Seuss and Nikki Giovanni and Langston Hughes and Shel Silverstein. And so there are so many books. And if I were to say like what book or what author I would recommend, who do I think is the best poet writing for children today? Who would that be? Well, I mean, you could try some of my books. That might work. But there's so many amazing poets. Nikki Grimes, Sharon Creech, Jacqueline Woodson, Alan Katz. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Tana Lee wants to know, do I tour schools? Oh my gosh. So Tana Lee, look. Yes. So my daughter's in the 12th grade, and I've been on the road since she was in the first grade. I have gone to about 1,500 schools around the world, and she's a senior in high school. And so I told her I'm not traveling this year. So I rescheduled all of my gigs, canceled all my travel so that I could stay home this year and be with her. So normally, yeah, I tour all the time, but not this year because I want to be with her this last year of school. But I do do a lot of virtual stuff. So you can check me out at kwamealexander.com.
Kwame, we have another question in from the audience. If you could choose one song to motivate a group of toddlers, this is from Jennifer Hamilton, to motivate a group of toddlers to participate, dancing, jumping, and singing, what song would that be and why?
One song.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, look, the beauty is, Jennifer Hamilton, you don't have to choose one song. You got a whole hour-long special on PBS Kids, and we got like 20 songs. And then you got 20 shorts, and we got a song in every short. So you got like 40 songs. But if I were to choose one, I don't know. I'm really partial to Old MacDonald. I love that. I'm also a grandfather, y'all, and I have a 1-year-old grandson named Langston. And there's a song, a West African song that my mother used to sing to us that I sang to my daughter, which my daughter is now singing to my grandson. And it's about peace. And it goes like this. Well, it's not a dancing song, though. You asked for jumping up and singing and dancing. Yeah, I would go with Old MacDonald, y'all, or the Barnyard Bop.
There's another great question, Kwame, in the chat where Angelica Reed asks, do you think other genres of music would work in the place of jazz, or is jazz what makes this all so successful?
Yes! So, so any form of music will work. So check this out. Collie Pride. All right, let's see who in the chat knows like what music would that dog be performing? Collie Pride. I'll give you a hint. Dolly Partridge. Good job, David. Well done, David. Well done, Tonally. Okay, Michelle Carris, I see you. Yeah, Shauna. All right, I'm gonna give y'all another one. Okay, I see y'all got it. All right, slow down, slow down. All right, here's my next one. You ready? Steers for Fear. Yes, yes. 80s. Yeah, yeah. Everybody wants to rule the world. Great job, Ann. Well done, Tonally. Melanie. Yeah, y'all are on it. So, from the vantage point of creating names, yeah, we could do any genre. In terms of teaching kids about rhythms and sounds and leaps and bounds, teaching kids about the power of music, teaching kids about how music is a universal language that can teach us so much about our lives. Yeah, it can be any music. It can be rock, it can be blues, it can be soul, it can be country, it can be jazz, it can be um, a bluegrass, it can be pop. Because here's the thing, it all comes from the same thing. Like it all starts from the same place. All right, so shameless plug for all you music teachers. Last year, I wrote a book called How Sweet the Sound. And it's about the history of American music in general and the history of Black music in America in particular. And it starts when Africans came to this country unwillingly and forcibly. And it talks about how the music that Africans brought with them, how it allowed them to not only survive in this country, but thrive. And so it goes from like West African drums to like hymns in the bottom of ships to like work songs to like Negro spirituals to blues to jazz. You see what I'm saying? So really it all goes back to the same thing. So that's a long way to answer your question. I'm sorry, but the answer is yes. We could do any kind of music, and perhaps if GBH and Julius and Nicole are lucky enough, we'll get an opportunity to really explore all the different forms of American music in Acoustic Rooster.
That's awesome, Kwame.
Right there with you, Kwame. I have another question from Denise Strickland. Question is, what is your favorite part of being an author?
Ooh, my favorite part of being an author. Well, there's a couple. One is when I get the idea and I say, oh man, I can't wait to write that. Two is when I type the end and I say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that's over and good. And three is when I get to engage and interact with my readers, especially young people, and I see that light bulb go off in their head and they're like, oh snap, I had no idea that I loved books like that because I love this guy. Like, I feel like I want to remind kids, students, readers that books are cool. And I feel like I'm the cool guy to do it. Boom.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Kwame.
Alexandra. Thank you for that. And yeah, Monique, go get it. Go get it, Monique.
I have another question, but before that, I just also want to call out just some amazing comments in the chat. One talking about great curriculum for diversity, Black history, representation, which 100% that was really at the core. I remember, Kwame, when you first came to GBH, way before we started this project, you talked about kind of what the values you wanted in this project. And that's something that Julius and I know worked really hard to uphold. And one of the other questions that had actually come in had talked about, ways that we had chosen to kind of bridge, cultural divides, but also talk about intergenerational connection. And, it's something that was really top of mind as we were developing our characters and something we found was really unique. When you look at the other PBS Kids shows out there, which are of course all incredible, we're so happy to be part of the PBS Kids family. But what's so great about our band is that you have intergenerational characters right there in your band. So Rooster's around 9, Lil just a little bit older than him, and then you have some bandmates that I mean, we're not going to maybe slap an age on Mules, but he's a grumpier guy. I don't know, Kwame. Are we slapping an age on the guy? But you have your older characters that are more that parent or even grandparent or uncle, that are playing right alongside them and kind of showing that age is not one of those things that that separates us. It actually is something that brings us together, and everyone has their expertise and things they can learn from one another. Because of course, Rooster is on this journey to learn something, but along the way, the greats actually learn a thing or two from Rooster, which is obviously a really special thing. And speaking of kind of the teachers in your life, Kwame, someone, let me see who this was. Someone had asked, who was your favorite teacher and what did they do in their classroom that made an impact for you?
Favorite teachers. Well, my parents were my first sort of educators and teachers, but like formal teaching in school, my first grade teacher, Miss Virgil at at Wilson Elementary in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And on the first day of first grade, she said, whoever reads 100 books this year gets a t-shirt that says, I read 100 books this year. I read 100 books in 2 weeks, Eileen. In 2 weeks, Monique. And I got that t-shirt and I wore that white t-shirt with red letters that said I read 100 books for the next like month. And I didn't even wash it. My mom was like, boy, you don't take that shirt off. I was so proud of myself. So that was my first teacher that did it. And and the last teacher was the last teacher I had in college. And her name was Nikki Giovanni. And I took 3 classes with her and she gave me C's in all the classes. And I remember going to her office and complaining and saying, I don't understand why you're giving me C's. I'm a really good poet. Why don't you recognize my stellar craft? And she looked at me. She looked at me and she said, Kwame, I can teach you how to write poetry, but I cannot teach you how to be interesting. Now get out of my office. And that was the beginning of a 37-year friendship. I've been very fortunate to have some amazing teachers who knew what I needed and who propelled me forward. And uh, and I'm so grateful because there were so many teachers in between first grade and college who who did not see my worth or my value and acted accordingly and tried to destroy not only me, but other kids of color in the classroom. But I got really lucky with those two. I got really lucky, y'all.
Yeah, it only takes one good teacher. Amazing story, Kwame. I have a question here from Allison McCarran. Do you make Spotify playlists that can be used in classrooms that are findable. Either Acoustic Rooster or OG Jazz.
Oh, snap. Yo, Allison, holler at me on my website or follow me on Instagram or something. Everybody follow me on Instagram. Because that's a good suggestion. I should do that. I will tell y'all this. I made an album. In fact, I made two albums, and you can find them on Apple Music and Spotify. But don't judge me. All right, so when you go and search, I'm gonna put it in the chat what y'all should search for, okay? This is the name of the band. And so search for that, and you're gonna hear some music. And there's actually what we did was we created songs inspired by each of my books. It's like the music of Kwame Alexander's books. And I do some singing. You like, what genre is it? I don't know. It's like Kwame genre. It ain't even no genre. It's like, but don't judge me, all right? Don't judge me. I don't even know if I answered the question, but I wanted to let y'all know that.
That's awesome, Kwame. And yeah, I agree. I think it's always a really fun way for us to continue thinking about how we can continue to package all the content that we have and get it out there so that it's easily findable and usable for everyone. So appreciate the suggestion there. There's a lot of questions that we got ahead of this, talking a little bit about how, Kwame, you thought about the musical writing that kind of came into play. And I think back to a lot of the writing that we did, and well, you did along with Kay Donmeyer, in terms of coming up with these songs that really brought out, and not just the songs, but to have those jazz phrases. I mean, we had everything from "Ain't That the Truth, Ruth" and other cultural elements that really kind of brought to life. So how did you feel like that writing and musicality played along together in the show and continues to in the writing that you do?
Well, I don't really write music or lyrics, but has written quite a few children's shows like Curious George, and she's written, I think like her husband's in a band or she's in a band, and she's written quite a few songs. So she wrote like the first drafts of the songs, and then I went in and I was like, okay, now we got to make this more poetic because I'm a poet and I'm kind of a snob. All right, y'all. Y'all probably didn't know that. And I want everything to be like metaphor, like figurative, concise, rhythm, alliteration, onomatopoeia. I want all that stuff. So I went in and did my sort of Kwame poet. I Kwamatized it, right? And then she went back and said, okay, some of this works, this doesn't, because she knows how to write music and I don't. So we really worked really well together to create these songs. And then I'm a huge jazz head and a huge jazz fan. And I knew some of the songs that I wanted these, like that I was inspired by as I was thinking through these songs and what the melodies were and how what the rhythm was and what the beats were and what kind of instrumentation was in it. And I sort of like, there's a really famous poet y'all know of named T.S. Eliot, and he said, immature writers imitate and mature writers steal. And so I stole from that inspiration, right? I want Miles Davis sketches in Spain. I want to use that inspiration as I'm writing this song. So that's how it sort of worked for sure. Thank you, Sally Clark. Thank you so much.
Speaking of stealing some art, I'm going to steal that phrase, quamatize it. That's awesome.
Let me take this moment, y'all, to shout out two of the best producers ever to work with because I'm kind of a lot, you know? And so for these two folks to still be smiling when they're on a video on Zoom with me, it means a lot because it means that I didn't, A, burn any bridges. Because again, I said I'm a lot, y'all. And B, that, we had a really great working relationship. And we didn't always agree, y'all, but we all wanted the same thing. We wanted to create a show that was going to inspire, engage, and inform young people and immerse them in this jazz way of life and teach them and make them feel good like we felt when we were making the show. So I want to give it up for senior producer Nicole and EP Julius Harper.
Thanks, Kwame. It was really a joy to work with you as well. When it comes to putting a project together, the most important thing is vision and meaning and what it's all about. And you are always our North Star. You are always extremely clear about what makes Rooster special, what we're trying to achieve with the project. And that was gold for us. So working with you was a real joy.
I remember the biggest thing that we had talk about a conversation was, collaboration and how to make sure that that message was coming through. And we talked a lot about collaboration, even with our folks over at PBS, because there was so much in there about, well, how are we getting this musical curriculum across? And well, we don't want it to be so music forward that like, well, how is it relatable? And collaboration was always the key, because at the end of the day, if you can't work together on a stage, you're not going to make that magic happen. You're not going to make that music happen. And so I think, it was such a pleasure working with both Julius and Kwame on this project. I hope we have the chance to make more music happen with these amazing characters, this amazing world. And yeah, we appreciate you too, Kwame.
Thank you.
Do we have any more time, Nikki, for any more questions or?
Got one more from Nancy Stenberg. So how do you get the kids to settle after?
Look, that's above our pay grade, sister. Sorry. That's on y'all. I will tell you this. When my kid was like 3 and 4 years old, my wife would get upset with me because at bedtime, it was Reader's Theater. I was performing. We were jumping around the room, and she'd come in and she'd be like, Kwame, it's time for her to go to bed. Now you got her all riled up. And then I'd leave, and it was her turn. So I'm going to say this to you, Allison, and Margaret, and Karen, and Tamika, and Almeda, and Mary, and Victoria. That's on you. Y'all got to figure out how to get them riled down, but we're going to get them riled up. And what we're going to do is get them riled up for words and sounds and leaps and bounds. And hopefully, they'll get as excited and engaged and inspired as you are on this webinar and as the three of us are having made this show. We appreciate each of you.
Wow, just absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. What a beautiful way to end it right there.